So the United States government has put together a summit of selected African countries for next week. The White House intends to meet the presidents of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Mauritania, Liberia, and Senegal next week to discuss what they term as commercial opportunities in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, as a matter of fact, this is what a White House official said about the summit, and I quote, "President Trump believes that African countries offer incredible commercial opportunities which benefit both the American people and our partners." End of quote, ladies and gentlemen. And I said exactly so to it. It benefits the American people and their African partners, but not the African people. And I'm processing all this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm processing all this, asking all the important questions. Why would America select these African countries in particular? What is it about the commercial opportunities in Africa which America has identified with these 5 African countries? Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, Senegal. What is it about them in West Africa? Because they are in Western Africa. Gabon is in Central. They all have access to the Atlantic Ocean, but not the major players in Africa. So why them? All these countries practice pretty decent democracies with presidents who haven't been in office for more than 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. What is it that the United States government has seen in these countries and wants to meet them separately? Ladies and gentlemen, are these countries experiencing wars? Not really, even though there was a coup in Gabon in 2023. Is it about anti-terrorism cooperation? Maybe. But ladies and gentlemen, while I dug deeper, 2 things become obvious as to why the US government must meet these 5 countries and must be immediately. My name is Cyrus, and this is Tuntum Network in Accra, Ghana. If today is your first time, please do me a favor and subscribe. You have to subscribe and share the link when you find us credible, ladies and gentlemen. And let's get into the story. The US government is seeing a trend that's going to threaten their presence in these 5 countries in a matter of 3 years. The first trend has to do with how fast China and Russia are moving in these particular countries, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start with China. The United States was Gabon's major partner, trading partner in the 1990s before China came in. So from 1990 to the early 2000s, the US imported significant volumes of crude oil from Gabon. US companies like Shell and Valco Energy were the big players in Gabon's oil sector. But by the mid to late 2000s, China had taken over as Gabon's top trading partner. China is now importing most oil, manganese, and timber from Gabon. This is how China took Gabon from the US. China did what the US never did for Gabon. They exported manufactured goods, brought in infrastructure development and technical aid to the economy of Gabon. And guess what's happening now, ladies and gentlemen? China is doing same things with Liberia, Mauritania, Guinea-Bissau, and Senegal. China brought in the money to build Dakar Arena, which is now Senegal's premier stadium for the national basketball team. So the Chinese built Dakar Arena, built the Dakar expressways and its bridges, and also upgraded their industrial park. Ladies and gentlemen, the fishing industry in Mauritania is completely taken over by Chinese vessels. This is a 754 kilometers long coast from Western Sahara to Senegal, all controlled by the Chinese. They have built roads, hospitals, conference centers in their capital, Nouakchott. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. The Chinese are beating the US to their game. Even in Liberia, which was unofficially a US colony, is in bed with China now. During the Ebola and COVID crisis, China was all over the place in Liberia, building hospitals and providing medical aid. China has since then built roads and is currently training Liberian soldiers on counter-terrorism. Guinea-Bissau is all for China to take right now. Just recently, in May of this year, a delegation of about 20 Chinese business people were officially sent by the Chinese government to visit Guinea-Bissau to explore for investment opportunities in infrastructure, fisheries industry, renewable energy, and medical equipment. They are already building hospitals in this country. Roads and stadiums in the country are already built. A lot of them done by the Chinese. This is the policy the Chinese government has adopted with Africa. They will come in with gifts that you desperately need, and you will swing wide your gates open to them. And so far, it's working perfectly well in their favor. Ladies and gentlemen, America is losing coverage, and America isn't happy. Therefore, this is not a summit, but a summon. They are being called to be whipped in line, ladies and gentlemen. Russia, on the other hand, is heavily involved with Gabon. They have discussed military cooperation and arms sales to Gabon's new government. Russia's interest in Gabon has to do with its oil, uranium, and manganese deposits. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa is being played like a game to the Westerners. We have become a chess game to them. Ladies and gentlemen, they are scheming and planning on what they want and how they will take it from us, and we are just looking on. African politicians know how to fight to take power, but not how to fight and develop their countries by themselves. Therefore, they are left at the mercy of the offers given them by foreigners. So the US is inviting these 5 African countries because, one, they are being taken over by the US's rival country, which is China, which will tamper with their international policy and plans. And the second one is they are losing out on resources from these African countries. America has lost Niger to Russia, but recently won back the DRC. It's a chess game. This is why I cannot stand African presidents who seem not to have plans when these things are unfolding in their countries. I see them as either a part of the problem or a stumbling block to the solutions to these problems. America wants our resources and our partnership. What will be our response? Don't we think we also need our own resources and our own partnerships? What are the resources sitting there doing when the people are struggling and the roads are unpaved and drinking water is a problem and healthcare is unavailable? What are the resources for, ladies and gentlemen? How does a country like the United Arab Emirates rise to prominence in a space of 30 years on just one major resource when we have a plethora of them? And it's not even for conservation reasons that we keep them, but to be taken away by foreigners. Who does this? When are you going to realize that you need to open your own industries in manufacturing and processing? When are we going to realize that no foreign countries or president is sitting there burdened with how to develop Congo or Guinea-Bissau or Mauritania? They are capitalists, ladies and gentlemen. They don't give a heck about you. They just have to deal with you because you own something that they need. So why don't we also make plans with our copper and zinc and manganese? If we are going to develop, we'll need all the bauxite we have to produce the aluminium we need. Can't you see what Captain Trory is doing with his resources, ladies and gentlemen? Can't you see how it's working for them? And don't you want same things in your countries, ladies and gentlemen? This summon of 5 African countries is the first. They have other plans for us coming. The US will be inviting us in groups until they completely take back all the territories they've lost. Africa will have to think for ourselves. Today it's USA Africa Summit. Tomorrow is India Africa Summit. The next day is China Africa Summit. Are you guys so less busy? This whole thing is nonsensical in my opinion and must end now, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to thank you for taking time to watch this episode, and make sure to subscribe and like. I'll be back with another one very soon. Lord have mercy on all of us. It is bye-bye for now.